I was not invited to my brother's fiancee's wedding because I refused to take communion. My brother attacked our older brother after he stood up for me. Even though some of my siblings are older than me, 31F, we get along nicely. My siblings are 40M, 38F, and 27M. Both of my older siblings and I are married. The wedding in question is for my younger siblings. My younger brother Luke is engaged to Emma, his 28-year-old girlfriend of 1 year. Emma is nice, I guess, but we've never clicked and are merely polite to each other. The fact that we are all Catholic, albeit not extremely devout, and that some of us have even lapsed is noteworthy. I believe the beginning of this whole thing occurred when I first met her. It's always been a sibling joke that I'm the genuine baby of the family because I look younger than Luke. The majority of people who meet us believe he is older than me, but until Emma, no one had any reservations about it. On the first day we met, she sneered when I told her I was delighted the baby had a true girlfriend. She has this unusual ability to be. She is the oldest member of her family, and until I showed her my ID, she had no idea I was older than her. Since then, she has been unpredictable with me, either making fun of me or attempting to behave like a boss. I don't have time to try to win her friendship, so I just let her be and mainly ignore her. I'm usually polite and courteous, and I always include her in scheduled events, but I don't really try. We simply attributed it to different personalities, despite the fact that the family was aware of it. Then the wedding preparation process began. I was fine with Emma's choice that I couldn't join the wedding party, since I was not married at a church. She then requested that members of her immediate family submit their dress ideas so that she could ensure they followed the wedding dress code. Okay? I hope you understand where this is going. As you can see, I haven't received communion or gone to confession in nearly 10 years. I simply sit or stand throughout the ceremonies in which I do not participate, out of respect, if I attend Mass for any reason. She believes this is insufficient, so she asks that I participate in communion during their wedding. I declined, and she was not pleased. As previously indicated, I usually avoid her, but this time I wasn't going to say yes or take a chance. I informed her that receiving communion required going to confession, something I did not want to do. She stated that everyone in my immediate family does it, and that if I don't, it will seem bad. I assured her that everything was fine, and that I would simply attend communion in front of everyone without making confession. She noted that since I clearly tried to ruin the day for her, I was not invited to the wedding. This was going to be my attitude. I thanked my brother, gave him a thumbs up, and departed for home. Although my family understands my argument and says they accept everyone's decision, I should not have said what I did. I informed them that I did not owe Emma an explanation of my life, and that I no longer wanted to attend the wedding. My grandmother was the only reason I called her. She had heard what had happened, and had asked me not to shame the church by taking communion without confession. She's now good with me because I promised not to do it. When my brother texted me to ask for a compromise, I responded by inquiring about if the other lapsed persons were also coerced into confession. He declined because it was only members of his nuclear family. She behaves in this manner around me and the children, which makes me chuckle because she is clearly older than the others. Ada? Lucky effective 1564, NTA who died and made Emma Pope, comments to which the original poster responded. Ah, see. I will inform my grandmother about this the next time we talk. She'll adore it. You should inform the priest about her behavior, beautiful report 58. He'll make sure she stops whatever she's doing. She's unable to create regulations that do not exist in the church. I would send him an email and let her deal with the consequences on her own. Oh no, I gave it some thinking, but I doubt I will because my grandmother may do it herself. She knows the priest who will officiate and isn't thrilled with the whole shit show, but she didn't want me to be impolite despite her own transgression. October 26, 2024, Update 1. Although there has been movement, I would not describe any of it as a positive development. I'd like to explain something I've been reading in the comments. I refuse to stand in line for communion or ask for a special blessing. Singling me out is more essential than the blessing or compromise. When we attend weddings or other events, I usually remain silent or take a general family blessing. I'm not against making sacrifices. What disturbs me is Emma's ridiculousness. I'm not sure why she feels this way about me. I don't appear to be a youngster or adolescent. She is very authoritative with her two younger sisters. She obviously has issues, since I've seen her act very my way or the highway with younger people. We had lunch at my grandmother's today, and the incident in the preceding post happened on Tuesday. I believe you should be aware of my brother's difficult relationship as well. As in, they do not share the same level of intimacy as their siblings. Since Luke is an adult and capable of managing relationships, my older brother Robert, who is quite blunt and has never been a fan of Emma, didn't believe he should intervene. I guarantee you that all of this will be relevant. Grandma lives alone, so we spend a lot of time with her since we truly enjoy her company. We were all present today since she had already moved on from the turmoil. She encouraged us all to clear the air after lunch, which was more like grazing. Emma went on to claim that I was disrespectful and that she simply expected the bare minimum from me. Emma stated that she was her elder and that her reasons were surely more than a tantrum, as was the case with me when my grandma questioned her on why she didn't. Keep in mind that she is not receiving communion. She also stated that she was asking all of the siblings to do this, and that I was the only one who objected to her simple request. This was the point at which everything went wrong for her. Robert has also slipped, and he was already exhausted by the situation, as I mentioned in the comments. When he asked her why she didn't mind that he wasn't getting communion, she looked like a captive child. She did not have a proper response. Robert went on to ask if she knew why he and Grandma had fallen behind. Shaking her head, she looked to Luke for encouragement. However, Luke remained mute, glaring at Robert and me. Robert. He informed Emma that he was the reason of Grandma's lapse. Because our grandparents were deeply involved in the Catholic Church, Robert was very apprehensive about how they would respond when he came out as gay as a teenager. Grandma felt bad about it, and her feelings intensified when she went to speak with the then pastor of her church about it. The priest was quite traditional, telling her that Robert was committing sins, that he was going to hell, that he needed to find out his path, and all of that garbage. Grandma didn't take it well and began spending more time with her grandchildren rather than attending church. She began to integrate with She participated in the community for many years, but she eventually decided to discontinue receiving the sacraments. She respects many components of the church, but is unable to totally reconcile with her. Emma was perplexed by Robert's marriage to a woman. He stated that he is bisexual and may have ended up with a man. He also stated that, while they are not officially married, she did not worry about it in the same way that I did. He questioned her freely about her disagreement with me. In summary, she said that I was impolite from the beginning and proceeded to mistreat Luke. Oh, and I was really snarky about how much younger I appeared than her. Crickets. I still don't comprehend her preoccupation, but she seemed to want everyone to know that I value her and her thoughts. She's a successful and lovely woman. She began to cry and accused me of turning my grandmother against her when I simply started laughing. She was continually siding with me over her, and my grandma told her to stop blaming people for her negative behavior. When Luke became upset and asked her why she wasn't supporting him, she simply responded that she didn't want him to be a lapdog for a strange woman. Despite more statements, nothing was really settled. Grandma is unsure if she wants to go at all, so I kind of declined the invitation when it was extended to me again. My older siblings notified Luke that if he sought couples therapy or even just therapy, they will attend the ceremony. My parents can't hide how much they dislike Emma and are having migraines. Oh, indeed, the priest informed Grandma that he would not perform until they underwent more premarital counseling. He is old enough to change his life if he wants, but I hope they don't marry. My grandmother thought the Pope joke was great, and I appreciate you allowing me to vent. In response to the OP's reply, KAILOL, I genuinely hope that the additional premarital counseling would cause brother to reconsider his decision to marry MS. Entitled, and Domineering. I wish you luck. Ironically, TripAdvisor 48 reports that before marrying in the Catholic Church, couples must complete a mandatory course or consultation called as pre-kana. The training helps couples prepare for marriage by taking into account the practical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of the relationship. According to others I know who have been through it, the priest or deacon also examines the couple's compatibility. I understand that my cousin's was 6 months long, although I suppose it varies per diocese. Second update. OT 28/2024. I choose to cut relations with my brother because he has gone too far. He brought our grandmother to tears, and I feel that many of his ties were irreparably destroyed. I should mention that numerous of my cousins and other family no longer back Emma or me, despite their previous belief that I was simply being difficult and stirring up trouble. Perhaps he has always felt this way, but his conflict with Robert is ludicrous. Grandma's remark about him being Emma's lapdog upset him so much that he called her to talk about it. Grandma informed me what happened, and Luke confirmed it, despite the fact that I was clearly not present throughout the conversation. He reminded her that because Robert was her favorite grandchild, it was inappropriate for me to seek him for aid, and that he would persuade her to support me despite my errors. He also informed her that she had abandoned her religion for him, illustrating how widely held this view was among the cousins. He claimed the other family members who identified as LGBTQ. They weren't sure if she'd do it for them, and the majority hadn't even been born when Robert was released. Grandma then contacted each of her grandchildren to see how they were doing and revealed a piece we were unaware of to Luke. She stated that the old priest had hinted at knowing where to correct Robert when he came out and she spoke with him. Robert and Grandma had both heard horrific stories about these regions and agreed with my parents that it was not a possibility at all. Even though my parents are casual Catholics and had no intention of sending Robert there, Grandma wanted to be prepared in case something happened. According to what I was told, Grandma sounded like she was crying over the phone, and the group chat took off after the first few calls, which were made in the sequence of youngest to oldest. The cousins who had asked me to stop being such a stubborn head are outraged, as is Robert, and our LGBTQ family accused Luke of lying. By the time I got up from my call, I'd already gone for Grandma's. Sarah, my youngest relative, was already present, along with 2 others. 16F was ready to engage Luke in physical battle. She asked whether I was making fun of her, so I just described the mental image of her trying to strike him, and she thought it was hilarious. For the fact Sarah is about 35 cm shorter than Luke, and the image of her swinging at him made me laugh slightly. I'd love to offer Luke some simple sense, but I kept it from her. This is not what we want from my grandmother, who has been through a lot in her life. She has a bloated face and repeatedly asks people if they feel unloved by her, claiming that she will stop at nothing to assist any of us, expressing how she still adored the other grandchildren, despite the fact that Robert was the oldest. Although she is a strong woman, I believe the realization that she had damaged her grandchildren drove something within her to break. I was fully over Luke, and it was a huge shit show. My parents had previously been unconcerned about the situation, but after knowing what had happened, they declared that they wanted some time away from him. Robert has decided to cease speaking to him because he is simply disgusted. Luke said, "This is why Emma's assistance. Controlling all of us would be extremely beneficial if we simply allowed her." He conveyed this knowledge in the cousin group chat. He also highlighted how Robert always sought to be the focus of attention and never shown true concern for him or anybody else. It was preposterous that he brought up his coming out, his vow to marry a woman, and the birth of his child. For many years, only our parents and grandparents were aware of Luke's coming out as a toddler. When he texted his now wife to announce that he was getting married, he didn't meddle or take anything. 4 months before Luke's graduation, his child was born, and it appears that this was a huge issue for him, since he never discussed it. Maybe, as Emma claims that I am self-centered and biased, but I call bullshit on his outburst. Robert has assisted all of the cousins in various ways, including babysitting, schooling, and getting them out of trouble. Although he isn't perfect, he isn't the cunning jerk that Luke appears to be. Perhaps that was Luke's last-ditch attempt, or Emma has misled him so badly that he is unable to return, or perhaps Luke has always felt inadequate, and we were ignorant of it. It's no longer relevant. If he marries Emma, I wish him well. Otherwise, I hope he receives therapy. He harmed many relationships and caused much sorrow, so I don't believe this will be settled anytime soon, regardless of what he decides. For the time being, I'll focus on my grandmother and her recovery. Emma's situation with me opened a can of worms, and I feel bad about it. I know I shouldn't, but it's hard to resist. Comments to which the operator answered, "Lizard girl, age 25. Wow, that." It sounds like Luke is projecting himself. He is the cunning jerk stating, "Edit, this internet stranger wishes your grandmother and your entire family well." Oop, if Sarah needed a safe ride home from a party while intoxicated, she would call her elder cousin Robert. I don't get his deal because he did it for Luke as well. Irrational behavior, which cannot be rationalized, is referred to as Ghost 3022. Luke's actions are completely illogical. and you will never understand them. We can only hope that he takes his head out of his ass as quickly as possible and seeks proper therapy. Oop, I'd be there in 2 seconds if he sincerely apologized and pleaded for help. When he spoke without Grandma, he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew it would hurt both her and Robert. Even though he isn't crying, Robert is distressed by the situation. He has always had everyone's best interests at heart, as proven by the images of him cradling each of us as infants. These are displayed on one of his walls. This is extreme, even though I've long understood that the brothers weren't really close. Was this truly the expression of Luke's innermost thoughts, pride of Cape Town? Or is Emma poisoning him so he withdraws from his support network and family? In any case, he is an absolute jerk. You, your grandmother, and all of your cousins should avoid attending this wedding. Nobody has yet confirmed their attendance at his wedding. My parents are unsure whether or not they will attend the event, despite their preference not to do so. November 4th, 2024. Update 3. To begin, let me say that Grandma is feeling better. Even if it's all online, I'm really grateful. Of the sheer number of people pulling for Hillary. I've mentioned this in a few chats and direct messages, but please understand that Emma's issue is with her being herself, not with her being parentified or her family being devoted Catholics. Premarital counseling was already planned, so it was an added bonus. Yes, not all cousins live in the same town or city. Some are a little farther away, but we communicate through chat. The update is mostly intended to inform people that Grandma is doing well, that she had a wonderful time with my cousin Sarah, and that her health is good. I would also like to share an update on the state of our maternal side of the family and the cousins. Grandma's side paternal cousins have given in and feel guilty about keeping Luke out of events, so a solution was reached whereby he can be invited to everything as long as people aren't forced to socialize. These relatives, who tend to be older, have a warm spot for the younger generation. Sarah, my youngest cousin, indicated that while she was happy with everything, she begged that he be kept away from her since she could no longer stand him. Naturally, we needed a shit show for our maternal side. While some of them were rather agitated, others advised me to make an effort to get his perspective. My mother told them everything, and some of them blamed her for elevating Robert to the position of family star. Although completely inappropriate, this caused some problems in my family, particularly when one of my maternal cousins questioned whether I could act appropriately if I were sitting at the same table as Luke at his wedding. It makes us wonder, but is this cousin who Robert has saved from near ruin twice the problem? I have not talked much about my sister Lucy, because she has never said otherwise. Prior to the scandal, she had a wonderful connection with Emma and was always extremely close to Luke. She was so dissatisfied that she made the decision to stay out of it. Since Luke was her baby brother, she was always very into him, even though she was never meant to babysit or anything like that. I know this because she said it to me as a child. Previously, things were difficult, but now that her children are my friends, we get along well. She was furious over everything, but she lost it when Luke was excused by our maternal family, or at least by some of them. She is that kind of person you don't expect to say anything negative, but she lost it, and I believe that was the final straw for Luke. She wrote out a lengthy post outlining everything that had been going on, challenging anyone who disagreed to kind of come at her. She made care to include every single eye roll, foul slur, and rude thing. She got fed up with the half-information telephone game, so she forwarded it to a lot of people. She stated she knows she shouldn't, but she needs time to work through her feelings, so she isn't talking to me for now. She is furious with me since my refusals caused this to happen. My parents informed Luke that he was on his own after deciding not to attend the wedding. They were willing to help and there was never a financial problem, but since Luke and Emma are both very well situated, there was no need for that. Let's move on to the only conflict I'm interested in these days and what most people might want to know. Sarah's presence with my granny was very positive, and she is feeling better. The oldest and youngest members of our family have always been in tune, so it was nice to see them that way. After much back and forth, she asked Sarah to invite Luke to her December birthday celebration, and he will be accepted. We'll see if he shows up. To put it briefly, my granny was ecstatic when I showed her the joke about the knife, sword, etc. Thank you. It's still true what I said earlier. Robert would come get Sarah if she needed him. I might have left out the fact that she naturally receives a strange lecture from him, followed by an even stranger one about how he evaluates particular drugs. As I mentioned earlier, he is not a saint, but he is also not a jerk. Finally, he does have pictures of me or my sister on the newborn wall. When he obtained his own home, he gathered all of the pictures that others loved to snap of him holding the new family members.